Good morning, my friends. I am coming to you today from inside Reboot. And as you can see, she looks gorgeous and lovely and tidy. And the reason is because she is sold. Yep. Went under contract in one day. Felt very serendipitous for both us and the buyers. I love her. They love her. The sea trial was magical. You could tell Reboot loves them too. It was definitely meant to be, and it makes my heart happy to know that Reboot is going to have some really wonderful adventures, I think, with her new family. So that being said, we're not going to work up here today. I want to show you the completed Lithium upgrade that I am so proud of. And I could not have done this without the yacht riggers. They designed the system for me. I originally came to them with the idea that I wanted to have a dual bank where I had AGMs over here that would run the house, and I would put some Lithiums over there that would run a Mabru DC aircon that did not need to be plugged into shore power to run. And if you follow along and if you watch my videos, you know that that ended up kind of morphing into an entire Lithium upgrade. And so we pivoted, changed tacks. Andre designed this really amazing, where is it? Here we go. Andre designed this really amazing schematic for me to follow. And I bought all the pieces from them, proceeded to ruin two solar MPPT, what are they called? The Smart Solar. Yeah, I proceeded to ruin two of those, trying to put them in. Ruined a couple of very, very expensive wires by cutting them a little bit too short, and spent a couple of months basically learning how to wire the Reboot correctly and follow along with ABYC rules. And I have learned more in the last 2 months about Reboot than I think I have in the previous 5 years. In the sense that I always understood how the guts of her work, like the plumbing and the water and stuff. But now I understand how her brain works too. I think the first thing I started working on with Reboot was the guts, the plumbing, putting better faucets in, and just really understanding, how water gets into the boat, how to keep water out of the boat. That was sort of my first priority. Then it was sort of learning the brains of the boat, which is how the navionics work and how the Xantrex works and all of that. And now I have learned how her heart works. And when I say heart, I mean the energy that pumps through her entire system that keeps her going. And the energy is the alternator, the Balmar alternator with its upgraded external regulator, which you saw me put in a previous video. And that upgraded Balmar regulator then in turn powers my lithium bank of batteries. But what I'm gonna do next is I've got my goofy camera, which I'm gonna try for the first time. But I wanted you, when I'm talking about the batteries, I want you to be able to see what I'm seeing really well. And I don't think you can do it like this. So I'm gonna get you down into the nitty gritty, and I'm gonna walk you step by step through what this looks like on Reboot in real life. Hopefully, and of course, I've got all of my notes that I took along the way. I'm an artist, so my notebook is gonna look like this, and it's gonna have a lot of pictures in it because that's how my brain works. But whatever gets you there and however you learn, here's how to wire up my Lynx Distribution. You know what? More power to you. All right, let's go. Trying to get this right is very challenging. I've never used it before, but here we go. Okay. Ta-da! All right, you know what? I think nothing really back there. I think I will put this here. Okay, and I think I'm gonna flip those up that way for now. Well, no, I should probably take them out. Okay, hold on. It's getting crazy, y'all. There we go. That's better.
It all started when my husband said, "What do you think about sailing?" And I fell in love with catamarans. Hi, I'm Robin, and my life, it's kind of crazy. See you out there.
Okay, where should I start? I think we will start. Where should I start? I think I will start with the batteries. So on the sheet, we got SFK1, SFK2, SFK3, and SFK4. And the batteries are wired in parallel, which means all of these wires need to be the same length. And here's what it looks like in real life. Okay, it's kind of hard to see because there's lots of wires, but we had the survey done, and did he unsnap those? Yeah. Okay, so we had the survey done, and bless his heart, surveyor left a lot of things on, and I kind of had to go back and turn off, and it looks like he just forgot to snap in a few things, but that's all right. They're back now. Okay, so these are a floating fuse bar, and to be ABCY compliant, you need to have these floating fuse bars on your batteries. So they are not in contact, like they actually float a little bit above the battery. So there's my positive, and then boop, there's my positive, and then we've got a big old fuse right there protecting the batteries. So, and I just go tight, 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 tight. I know they're tight. I just get paranoid. Okay, so let's look at this one because they're all the same. It's just that we've got wires coming back through the, okay, positive, floating, not a bus bar, sorry. I get words wrong all the time. This is a floating fuse. It's called a Z-bar. And the outriggers invented this, designed it, fabricated it, and came up with, this is just a really cool idea. They sell these. I will put my affiliate link in the comments. So when you say, hey, can you give me Robin's floating Z-bar for my batteries? They'll know you mean this. So positive, floating Z-bar, these two right here. And last but not least, these two right here up together. So this is my Lynx distribution box. And okay, what do we do with the power coming to the batteries and going from the batteries? This is my ProMariner Isolator. And one of the things I did was the LED indicator descriptions, because when your boat's on, you've got all of these lights that are doing things that don't necessarily make any sense. So I stuck a little cheat sheet up here, and I just encased it in tape, so it's nice and tight. Okay, here is my ProMariner. It's an isolator, and an isolator does exactly what you'd think an isolator does. It isolates power coming in from different sources, and then it feeds it out properly to the positive bus bar. So let's see. Okay, we'll start with the left. This one is my starboard engine. It has the dumb alternator on it. It's the stock Hitachi. It's an 80 amp alternator, and it has no external regulator because it's a dumb alternator. So we have the power coming in from the dumb alternator is this wire. Oops, sorry. Nope, this wire. Right, it's hard to see, but man, tracing these, I tell you what, was a bear. Okay, so the power coming in from the dumb alternator is, nope, sorry. Here we go again. Okay, the power coming in from the dumb alternator is right here. And if you trace it up, it goes to this, which means this is your alternator number 2. This is the starter battery, and the power goes out to the starter battery right here. And this one, so then we've got energy that's coming from the starboard dumb alternator. The isolator works its magic, and then it goes out right here to charge the starter battery on the starboard side. It also sends the extra juice coming in from the dumb alternator through that breaker into the Orion. This is an Orion DC to DC charger. And what it does is it takes the energy coming in from the alternator on the starboard side, the dumb one, and decides who gets what. And then it comes in and the positive goes out, and then it feeds it over here to the positive bus bar, where after it decides that the starter battery is full and happy, then it will allow the extra juice to go over here and also charge these. And there are some settings for the Orions that you have to pay attention to and make sure you get them right for your particular setup so you don't hurt your AGMs. And also you want to make sure that you set it right so this turns off when your engine turns off. Otherwise, you will drain these batteries. And a lot of people have been upset about these for draining batteries, but really what it is you just have to make sure your settings are right so it knows to be quiet and go to sleep. And I can look at this in my app and see that it is quiet and sleeping. Okay, next. And there's from the starter battery. What's this one? Engine 2 core input 1. Oh, sorry, got it a little wrong. It's very confusing. So this one is from the port starter battery. Next one. Okay, this is the port battery. And the port battery has the big Balmar Isolator on it. And it is responsible basically for charging most all of this stuff. You get a little bit from the starboard, a smaller alternator, every little bit helps, but most of it's coming from here. So this one right here, this line, and it's funny because it's got the original writing on it, but I did not redo it. So this is the power coming in from the alternator. It's a Balmar J120 and it's 120 amps. And this, so it comes in here and then it says, woohoo, I'm going to send all this juice right here. So this is coming from the port isolator. So it comes in, goes right out. And then this fat cat is my direct line to charge my lithiums. And what it does first is it goes in here to this series breaker. So you can turn off if you need to disconnect everything from you need to just make sure your batteries are disconnected from everything going on over here. That's what you flip. And that basically cuts off all the power. Then it goes up into a very big fuse. And then the fuse goes into the Lynx, and I have it screwed down and I'm not going to open it for you. You can look at it online. And basically the Lynx it's a power distribution center. And it also has a set of fuses for each one of these that are in here. And so it goes in there. The Lynx works its magic and it says, here you go, have some juice. And then coming out of the Lynx is the shunt for the BMV 712 Smart. This basically is another piece of Victron kit that tells you what is going on. This basically tells you what is going on in terms of what energy is coming out of here. So the energy comes in here, charges the batteries, and then whatever's going in and coming out across the negative bus bar, it's reading it right here. I am not a huge fan of this because getting this number to perfectly match my onboard BMS numbers for these batteries is a kind of a pain. It's sort of like I take this number that I'm getting under advisement, but really I'm getting most of my really trustworthy information from the onboard BMSs that each one of these have. And you can see right now the Bluetooth is active, so I can look at it in my app, and they are in active balance mode, which means they're working to keep themselves balanced. Basically, if you look at the pretty easy to understand SFK manual, it says keep them in blue unless you want to charge them up to 100%, and I'm good at 99%. So, okay, power comes out of here and goes over to here. This is my house negative bus bar right here, and so this wire is the big fat wire coming out of the BMV. Goes into here. This wire is my negative for my starter battery, which is a Rolls AGM, which is way down in there. And then house battery feed to the lower bus, and the lower bus is way down in there, and I'll show you that later. Then we've got, what's this one? This is my shunt. This is a sensor wire from my BMV shunt, and that is what powers that's what powers the display up there. Then we've got another one right here. Let's see, we've got two, right? Two in there. Yes, we do. Okay. So one of them tells you what the so that's the solar. This one. Okay, this one's coming from the battery. This one is coming from this battery right here, and it gives you that information there. And the other one is right. Okay, that's the sensor for the positive. So what it's doing, the BMV 712 Smart, through this sensor wire, is reading the positive bus bar. And then it's also reading what's coming off the negative bus bar. So that's how it completes the circuit, and that's how it understands what's going on. Then, let's see, this is the negative line from the DC to DC charger, which remember is over there, right there, the blue thing. Because if you have a positive, you have a negative. And then this is solar. Yeah, this is my solar wire. Let's see what I'm doing here. Yes, that's the, okay. And this little tiny wire here in there going from the positive and negative, that is the computer fans I installed under there and over there that turn on when it gets super hot, and they help to keep this better ventilated. And I added a ventilation spot over there to keep air flowing through here better. And then let's see. So we explained this one. This wire goes to the battery bank. This one goes to your port isolator where all the juice comes in first. This one is from the DC to DC charger. And then this one with a fuse on it is the sense wire from the external regulator. And this one reads if all of a sudden there's like a whole bunch of juice that starts coming in from the alternator down there. This one is paying attention to how much energy is going on up here. And if this sense wire sees a big energy surge building up here, it actually knows to power the alternator back there so you don't blow up your alternator. Super, super important to, if you have lithium, super, super important. And then this one's the BMV shunt. And then this one goes to the lower house bus bar over here, which I'll show you in a minute. And then we've got solar coming in. We've got to the house battery switch. And then we've got stuff going up to the inverter. And then if you look at the solar, there's a solar. And then that line goes up over there. So I think, and then here's your negative to the inverter. Here's your negative to the inverter. Here's your negative to the solar, and then the lower bus. Okay, I think I have explained everything that's going on in here. Let's go ahead and move over to that one and that one. Let's see if I can explain this correctly. So we've got a big fat wire coming in from the port starter back. How do I explain this to you guys? Okay, we have got power coming in from the positive bus bar over here, and it powers all of this stuff. These are switches. This is my windlass. No, I'm sorry. This is my winch. This is my windlass breaker. This is the switch for, let's see if I can get in here better. Sorry. Okay, let me do it again. This is my winch breaker. This is my windlass breaker. That is my house battery switch. And that is my starter battery switch. And I'll show you what they look like on the other side. That is the fan that I just installed. And all of those very interesting wires right there, that is taking energy from the batteries and putting it into the 12 volt system in the house. So basically all the lights, all the DC fans, everything that runs on DC comes, like basically originates in this spot. And then on top of that, we have the inverter is very power hungry and it handles a lot of power. So we've got the cables coming in and going out of the inverter, and we got a big old fuse right here to protect it in case there's some sort of big jump of energy. And we can follow that up. Let's put this back on here. Oh, I didn't do this. That was the guy that the ABYC certified electrician, and I'm making air quotes here, that installed the batteries, the previous iteration of batteries. And I don't know why he did that, sailboats, but I don't know why he did that. So I should have known. It should have been a red flag not to use him again. Okay. And I know it's dark in here. I'm sorry. But that is my Xantrex inverter. This is when you plug your boat into shore power. This is the shore power lines coming in. And this is the negative. This goes to the negative bus bar. And this one goes to the positive bus bar. So it is keeping track of what's going on. Then this is my solar. So I've got the neutral ground coming in, and I've got the positive ground comes in, goes down out through there, and goes into these, and it goes out, and it comes out right there, but not before going through another breaker. And originally there was a fuse there. It was like one of those spade fuses where you have to pull it. I hate those. They freak me out. I like a nice, tidy block there. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. And you have to be super careful when you install these. You have to do it in the right sequence. Like, you have to. If you mess up, so once I started it up wrong and burned one out, and then once, see how these wires are all black? Nowadays, the wires are red and yellow. Oops, sorry. The correct wires are red for positive, yellow for negative, but these are original to the solar system on the boat. So they're just all black. And I was working in here at night because I wanted to make sure that the solar panel didn't zap me because high voltage. And I swapped the positive and negative, put it in here and killed another one. So third time's a charm. This one's right, got my wires right. Now I test every single wire with my multimeter. Even if I think I have it right, I test it with a multimeter. Like, even if I'm like 100% sure, I now still test with my multimeter because stupidity is expensive. And so there we are. Okay, we get that. And then that 12 volt system that I showed you that went from there, it goes all the way down. And here are all of my fuses. Well, not all of my fuses, some of my fuses. This is basically all the house bank, like your bilge, which I labeled because I feel like that's really important to know fast if that's something wrong. But these are all the other fuses that go on in the house, swirled into there. I didn't touch any of those. That's original to the boat. What I did was I added the Orion. I added the 2 breakers to the Orion. I rewired the ProMariner according to right here. Here's my ProMariner isolator. And here is all of the things coming in and going out. So that's rewired that. And then here's a starter battery. Made sure that all of those lines were complete. I made sure that all of the wire gauges were proper. And you can see, if you look at that there it is in real life. And then the solar, and then you make sure you have your fuses between your bus bar, which I do. And there's Lynx, there's the BMV Smart, and there is my breaker, there's my big fuse, there's the Orion, coming in, going out. And that is how you upgrade from an AGM system to a lithium system on my boat, on Reboot. Every boat has different power requirements. Every boat has its own quirks. Every boat has a place where when you get everything running right, it's just in its happy sweet spot. I didn't want to make this video like right after I put it in because it really hadn't been tested. You know, I trusted I wonder if that is a carbon monoxide detector too. Sorry, just squirreled a little bit. The inspector said I needed carbon monoxide detectors along with smoke detectors. I actually think when I put this in, it's a combination CO and smoke detector. I'll have to double check that. Anyway, what was I saying? I wanted to make sure that we ran Reboot a lot before I was like, hey, look at my awesome system, just in case there were bugs or I didn't do it right or it needed something else. And the only thing that I messed up, knock on wood, and this is actually pretty dangerous, and you wouldn't think it's dangerous, but it is dangerous. I made one of the connections on the positive bus bar. It was girl tight, it was not tight, and it got a little loose when we were going through some big waves back in February, and like it just threw all sorts of error messages. Like the Xantrex was like, low voltage on the bus bar. And I was like, oh, that's a new one. Great. So I looked it up online, and sure enough, I had not tightened the bolts down. So dropped anchor, turned everything off, and went through and made sure every single bolt in that installation was not girl tight. I made sure it was tight, like tight, as tight as I could make it. Champ. And since then, run like a champ. I'm so proud of it. I'm really proud of it. And not only am I proud of it, I really love working with electronics and wiring and trying to understand
how this translates to that. And I had no idea that I would discover that I really like the very kind of, I think it's because I'm an artist and this feels really visual to me. And I think because it feels really visual to me that all of this, like kind of creating something that is balanced and beautiful and aesthetic, and the wires and making it, you know, as tidy as I can, working with the space I was given, it really appealed to me and it really clicked with me and I really enjoyed it. I loved it and I definitely want to do more. I really love the electronics part. So we are going to close this up, and it's kind of symbolic because not only am I closing this up, we're kind of closing this chapter of our lives on Reboot. We've owned her for 6 years and we have learned so much. We've learned so much about sailing. We've learned so much about boating. We've learned so much about the whole boating culture, which has been really, really amazing. Such an amazing group of people. Like, I had no idea how awesome the boating community was. It was like this whole secret treasure of people who were really willing to help and give information and, you know, step in with a spare part. And it was kind of like I found my people because I love helping and I love stepping in to lend a hand. And I always had spare parts on board. And, you know, I felt like I found my people. And so that has been wonderful. And that is going to continue in some form or fashion as my husband continues to recover slowly. So if you follow me, you probably know, like, he's 6'4". So his doctor does not want him doing like bending over or ducking or constantly doing this with his neck or like that. So we have to find a boat where he, like 99% of the time, can just sit, like keep his back stacked and keep his spine straight. So that's where we are. But I am incredibly grateful for the 6 years that we've had on her. I'm incredibly grateful that we didn't wait, right? It wasn't a great time to buy the boat. You know, we just sent our youngest kid off to college. We had 2 kids in college. My husband had just started a job where he was flying to Europe every couple of weeks. So we weren't sure whether we were going to be able to sail it that much. And I can tell you, I'm glad I did it. I'm glad it all worked out. I'm glad, we wouldn't be here where we are today if it wasn't for this boat. And we wouldn't be here where we are today if we hadn't taken this adventure. And I'm so happy that we are where we are today because everything kind of worked itself out. And even though it wasn't necessarily like the right time to buy a boat, like we had just started looking, but it was the right boat. And the right boat kind of made everything else kind of fall into place and made it right and made it work. And I appreciate so much the 6 years that we've had on her and how much I've learned and how much she's helped me to grow. And my husband really, really, really wants me to keep making videos. He's super supportive. And so we are going to figure out a way how we're going to move forward on the water, because we will be on the water, because the ocean, salt water is in my veins. Sails are in my soul, even if they may not be on my boat moving forward, but they'll always be in my soul. And he is really, really encouraging me to keep going and keep making videos. So moving forward, once Reboot goes to her new home and gets to go on adventures with her new owners, we will bring you along as we figure out what we're going to do next.